Well, let me just talk about the whole diagnostic process.
Okay.
Diagnosis of different kinds of disorders it has been done by psychiatrists for 140 years, and yet it's controversial, and some people don't, and some counselors don't like to assign diagnostic labels. What did I learn with the Myers-Briggs? Well, the Myers-Briggs was not designed as a measure of pathology. It was not designed to be used to predict a person's difficulties under stress. I mean, this is a later
Hmm.
adaptation of it, which I think is useful. However, what the Myers-Briggs taught me is I learned a distinction I'll call narrow band versus broad band. In plain
Okay.
language, what does that mean? If you are an INTP, I'm going to use your example, John.
Go
Okay.
right ahead.
Now remember, this goes for everyone. If I say a certain type has a proclivity toward a certain reaction pattern under stress, problem pattern, it doesn't mean that all INTPs or all INTJs or all ESFPs are going to react that way. It's a tendency.
Okay.
But let's say I'm working with a teenager whose preference is introverted thinking with intuition, and I won't be alert. I will look from the data I've gathered over the years with over 1,000 clients. I've noticed a narrow band pattern that my male INTPs tend constitutionally and then under stress to have more issues around inattentiveness. In other words, not paying attention the way a teacher or boss would want you to, and also a tendency towards social anxiety or awkwardness.
Okay.
In like Dr. Spock in Star Trek. Okay, so that's an example of where there may be a particular predisposition under stress to develop or manifest the problems in that area. And I could give
Um,
you that for others, but that's just an example of narrow band. Let me say the more common pattern is that 16 different types of problems. That is to say, if I'm depressed and I'm an INTJ, my pattern of depression may involve more obsessionality and with isolation. And I were working with a client who preference is ENFP, an extroverted intuitive with
mhm.
feeling, that individual is more likely to have depression manifest in social relationships in terms of either trying even harder, like a butterfly, to
Right.
connect, so that other people may not even think that this woman or man is depressed at all when they're really very depressed. So a
Right.
different flavor, different manifestations of the depression as a function of one's basic type. I hope I'm making my point clear. That was a
That
revelation to
makes
me when I saw that.
yeah. That makes perfect sense to me, and I think it speaks to the idea that if we don't think about these things, if we haven't looked at things like the Myers-Briggs type indicator or other ways of understanding human personality, perhaps we just tend to see others through our own lens. So the
Yes,
behavior we see may be for all sorts of different reasons, which we don't realize because we're seeing it in the way that we would see it. And tools like the MBTI perhaps open that vision up a little bit.
yes. Well, I haven't done research on this, but I really want to amplify what you've just said, John, because uh, type practitioners have used the indicator in group work to help people to appreciate difference. So if you take individuals and you have a heterogeneous group of people of mixed race or ethnicity, and
Hmm.
you've gotten permission to have them take the indicator and to share their results. That's important. You have to get permission to share results with
Hmm.
anyone else but the individual. And let's say you then group the individuals where their race or ethnicity is different, but their type is the same. Let's say INTPs in one little subgroup
Yeah.
and ENFPs in another group. And you'll find that the type alike, even though they're dissimilar in other respects, including politics, they're more likely to come up with a common ground. That's fascinating. If you take the opposite, if you take people who are alike, racially, ethnicity wise, politically, and their types are different, you will find more, I call it turbulence, kind of like a weather
Right. Yeah.
meteorological analogy. There'll be more misunderstanding in that context. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us that instruments that look from a healthy standpoint at people's individual differences, at their type differences, could be used as a model for bridging certain conflict situations. I very much would like to do more work in that area. I think it's profound. And I'll just allude to this several research studies that show that liberalism versus conservatism, uh, there, there are certain predispositions that the different types have toward those.